Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dedicated Show. My name is Kate Strashny. I will be your host for the show today. Truly excited to bring up our panel here in just a minute or two. And before I do that, let me tell you what we're talking about. So, today's talk is all about a fast track to data science careers with Anaconda. And I'm pleased to announce that we have the CEO of Anaconda, Peter Wang, and joined with Jess Haberman, Director of Learning Solutions at Anaconda, who will join us here today. We're going to talk about data science careers. We'll talk about upskilling. We'll talk about ChatGPT. We'll answer any of your questions that you have about this topic, about upskilling, about maybe breaking into a career in data science, maybe transitioning from another career. So really, really excited to do this. And Anaconda is also kind enough to provide us with some fun swag, because what's a dedicated show without a fun giveaway? Now, the way to play this giveaway is just put hashtag Anaconda into any of the platforms that you're joining us on here today. So if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch, just type in hashtag Anaconda and we will select two winners. The first winner will be around the halfway through the show, who will get a Anaconda baseball cap, and then a second winner will receive a leather journal. I actually really want that leather journal, but I'll refrain from playing the giveaway myself. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our speakers. Hello, Peter, and hello, Jess. Welcome to the Dedicated Show.
Hi.
Hi, Kate. Hi, everyone.
Hi, great. Thank you so much for being here. I think it's always a great place to start with some introductions. But before we start that, I want to ask the audience a question, just to sort of get a pulse check here. Have you used Anaconda for data science before? Just a quick yes or no in the comments will be great. Let us know. And all right, Peter, I think we can go ahead and get started with you. Let's hear a little bit about you and your role at Anaconda.
Okay, so I am the CEO and the founder, one of the two co-founders of the company. And so prior to the CEO role, I was in the CTO position. So I was really focused on technology and technology leadership. And then about 3 years ago, I took over the CEO role. And I guess my day-to-day really, I don't actually write that much code anymore. I love to, and I love it when I have a chance to, but for the most part, I'm really coordinating, strategy and operations and things like that across the various divisions and groups within the company. So that's kind of what I do day to day. But I also do end up on social media quite a bit with hot takes on all manner of things, from politics to technology to the philosophy of science to GPT-3 and 4 and whatever beyond, and all those fun things. So that's, I think, a social media presence is my sort of side gig, maybe.
It is pretty fun, right? Social media.
It is fun. It's fun engaging with there's a really good data science and ML sort of Twitter social media crowd, and so we have fun banter there for sure.
Great. I'm sure we'll hear some of your hot takes here today. Jess, let's hear about you and your role at Anaconda.
Sure. I'm Jess Haberman, Director of Learning Solutions. And I'm we're building a learning platform here at Anaconda to help upskill and reskill folks learning data science, Python, machine learning, all that good stuff. So we're developing a lot of content. We're engaging with the community. I totally agree with Peter. There's this great data science community out there. Twitter I use for my hot takes about sports, but LinkedIn, definitely there's a lot of folks over there as well. So I'm excited that we're streaming to all these platforms today.
Yes, absolutely. And I asked a question to the audience earlier for folks who are just joining now. The question was, have you used Anaconda for data science? And looking into the comments, I don't see a single no yet. So I've got a bunch of yeses here coming in. So it's a good sign, guys. This is looking good. We've got the right audience here.
The right people here.
Yes, we've got the right people here.
Yeah. And I met Kate actually so I'm formerly from O'Reilly Media, where I was a data editor there, and Kate and I connected about content. And Kate has this new book, which is very exciting color-wise. Congrats on that, Kate. And so yeah, another like side hustle is reading and talking to authors and just the sort of thought leadership around data science. And Kate, it's great that you're a big part of that community.
Oh, thank you. That's an awesome book plug. I love it, Jess. Thank you so much. So unexpected. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great working with O'Reilly, obviously, for ColorWise. Now, as we get into the questions, a quick reminder for our live audience here, we are taking questions and comments live. So if you've got a pressing question or something interesting you want to add to the conversation, go ahead and put that in the chat and we will make sure to address as many as we can.
So one thing I do see is some people are saying no, they don't use Anaconda, and that's totally fair, and I'm not mad about it.
I
But
see
one
them
thing
coming in,
Yep. One thing I do want to point out is that we don't just make the Anaconda like package distribution and the installer and all that stuff. We actually work on a lot of different open source tools as well, and we've incubated some open source tools within the company over the many years that we've been around, and some of them we still continue to develop, or others we funded the development of. So, for instance, there's a project called Jupyter Lab, which some people may have heard of, which was actually incubated and created at Anaconda. And there's another project called Jupyter Notebook, which is different. It's like a classic notebook that actually Anaconda actually runs. We are paying the maintainers of that. So we employ the maintainers of Jupyter Notebook, and the last release of Jupyter Notebook is actually cut by Anaconda employees. So even if you don't think you use Anaconda, you're almost certainly using tools that are created by or maintained or somehow to some extent funded by folks here at Anaconda. And of course, upstream of all of that stuff, the granddaddy and grandmommy of all of those, SciPy and NumPy, right? My co-founder Travis is the creator of both of those things. And so I think virtually everyone uses those. So in any case, I just want to make it very clear for people, even if you don't think you're using Anaconda distro, you're still probably using some software that we touched in one way or another.
All right, I love it, Peter. So this is the first hot take here. Even if you don't think you're using Anaconda, you're actually using Anaconda.
Yeah, well, and that actually is sort of a weird thing, right? Because we're known for this distribution of things, and we don't aggressively brand all of the different open source projects. We give them sort of their own name, and they have their own sort of like, you send children off into the wild to go grow up in their own ways. So a lot of projects like Dask, Bokeh, and things like that, Numba, these all have their own names and they have sort of their own characteristics to them. But they're not all named, Anaconda dash something, right? We didn't want to do it that way.
Right. And I think this leads us into my first question for you, Peter, is, maybe talking briefly about the mission of Anaconda. So you do a lot of different things, but what's the overall driving mission and sort of how does that fit into the data science, the broader community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over the many years that we've been doing this, we started with a vision, and we've actually kind of maintained that vision, even though it may be a little bit hard to see. And the goal was to basically help everyone in the world be empowered with data literacy. We really wanted everyone, even if they're not computer programmers, to be able to write analytical and quantitative code. We wanted people to be able to do data analysis, even if they didn't think they were experts in it, right? So from the very beginning, one of the founding motivations for the company was because Travis, my co-founder, and I were doing consulting, and we're going all over the place into various big companies, and we were seeing people adopt Python scientific and numerical tools for doing data analysis in domains that we didn't think it was that it would be used for, but people were picking it up and using it because it was so accessible. So accessibility and kind of that democratization of knowledge has been really a core to the DNA of why we started the company. And that continues to this day, right? I mean, Jess started with us not too long ago, but it feels like it's been a little while now. But us formally spinning up an educational learning division was really just another sort of another step in that along that mission. And then last year, our creation of PyScript was a similar kind of thing. We realized that people, you could learn Python. There are plenty of great books, some from O'Reilly, and there's a lot of learning content from all sorts of people about how to learn Python. But the impediment for people in building applications nowadays and writing cool data things was just getting all of the environment set up and deployment and all these annoying things around infrastructure. So we made a web-friendly and web-native way of doing Python. So all you need is a web browser. You don't have to understand servers, and you can be writing, data science code. And so that's so you sort of see the thread running through all of this. And even in some of our more obscure projects like Numba or optimizing compiler, which might be like, well, how is a compiler supposed to be a democratizing tool? Well, the point of Numba is that you don't have to learn C++, so you don't have to learn assembly language, and you don't have to learn low-level, GPU programming. You can just write Python code, and you write a little Numba decorator on top of the function, and the whole thing now compiles to machine code. So even in something as sort of nerdy and weird as a compiler, we have that same thread of democratization and ease of use and accessibility.
Right. And I think the key word here is accessibility. And we've seen that with ChatGPT, where we've got regular folk using AI, where this
I like to
technology
call
has
them
been around.
muggles. It's not too offensive to call them muggles, right? I think, but it really is. But it really is. I mean, it's a term of endearment, right? I'm a muggle. I'm not a wizard, so like it's sort of but it's I think it's a sense of like we have made software over the last 40, 50 years. We've made software to this like thing where people have like, oh, are you a coder? Are you technical? Are you this and that and the other? And in fact, the whole point of Python, the reason why Python is so rapidly adopted is because it is easier for non-coder people, non-computer scientists to go and use. And so I do talk about muggles, and again, in a very endearing and not in a pejorative way, when I talk about bringing computer capabilities to the billions of people on the planet who are not software developers. And GPT is just one more turn of the crank in that direction. But there's a shade of danger there, right? And we can talk about that in a subsequent question if there's interest.
Yeah, like just empowering data literacy with all the resources, whether they're like developed by Anaconda or not, like just helping, I think, driving the community around, around Python, around data science is something that Anaconda has done from day one. And that, just bringing all these educational resources allows us to do that, even stronger. And just like, I think like the thing I see, especially as we, excuse me, as these, low code and no code and GPT, like empower folks to learn in this space is to like, really drive that community and avoid this sort of like the gatekeeping behind like folks who are more technical, and like, because there's just so many opportunities for us to teach each other and to really like empower like deeper, more sophisticated work. So it's really just a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some comments coming in. So Shailesh just wants to clarify for those who don't know, muggles are normal humans with no magical tech in this context powers. For those who aren't Harry Potter fans, yes, those are the non-magical, non-wizards in Harry Potter. Now we all know what muggles are. Jess, you mentioned empowering and data literacy, and Peter, you also spoke about, data literacy and data democratization. So I think we've still got a ways to go for having folks have the right data science skills. And I wanted to sort of shift and talk about what are, maybe Jess, you can start here. What are some of the important data science skills that are really in demand this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the kind of data science fundamentals haven't really changed that much. I think, forming and hypotheses and testing hypotheses and, data cleaning and data analysis and things like that. I think there's important areas that I'm seeing either are bigger challenges or just like big opportunities. So I think like, obviously commuting insights to business leaders about the data, but also like being able to speak the language of the business and sort of, instead of like talking data to people, talking in the language of the business is really crucial. And it's a skill that, you have to cultivate and to also really like drive your own value in the organization by connecting your work to the business value. So I think that takes a little bit of skill and work on the sort of data science side, whether you're a data scientist or you do data practitioner work and sort of a different variation of that. And I think like just democratizing different tools, like, being able to work with data with pandas or SQL or, like other iterations. Like, I think there's a lot of opportunities to sort of work across these different tool areas and not sort of pigeonhole too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those just a couple of the things that I think are sort of important like right now.
Thank you. Peter, any other skills you want to throw on there?
No, I think I mostly agree with what Jess is saying, that the fundamental skills have not changed. Right. New things keep showing up, right? But the foundations are the foundations. And she's absolutely right in this articulation of like, it's not just about learning the skills, because there can be, when you don't know them, it seems like that's the most important thing. But once even if you could be 100, like, or a 10 out of 10 on all the skills, those are just like all the tools on a workbench. You still have to have an idea of what you're going to build, right? You can be a master craftsman at all of the different tools, but not make any interesting furniture, right? And so then it's like, well, so what's the point of that? So I think when Jess talks about the importance of being able to speak to the business and whatnot, that's all part of that. And communication skills, just to that's sometimes underrated, and I want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate and up-level your communications to the stakeholder frame of mind, from the point of view of the question asker and not the answer giver. That's a little bit of that takes some psychological and personal development for a lot of people, right? To really take yourself out of your own brain and put yourself in someone else's brain. That's a real skill. That's not a skill you're going to get by reading an O'Reilly book. That's not a skill you're going to get by whacking around with pandas in a notebook. That's just something you have to develop the capacity and empathy as a person. You have to develop curiosity, all of those kinds of things. Those are also skills. We call them soft skills, which is odd because they're the most important skills.
And they're hard to learn, right?
And they're hard to learn. It's like we should call them like the core skills, right? Because that's none of the rest matters, right? If you can't get the other stuff going. So
I liked your furniture analogy where you don't know how to put together a piece of furniture after having all these tools, or if you just learn how to build chairs and your stakeholders don't want chairs, they need tables or something else. So absolutely. And Saurabh's adding here that communication of business insights and intelligence is something.
Well, and maybe a meta skill on that is also most people, we've come in such a short time. The field has evolved in terms of adoption and mainstreaming in the career paths. And this is probably quite relevant to the audience here, thinking about career development and whatnot. There's a lot of places that think they want data science and data scientists. And one of the common complaints I see all the time is that people get hired in, they go through so much effort to learn all these great tools and everything, and they go into some place and they become essentially just a report maker, or they become like a SQL schema wrangler, right? Or whatever else. They become sort of, because they learn so many disparate skills, they become a jack of all trades that gets used to plug in whatever hole might exist in the organization. And every organization has holes in it, right? Between the data management and the computing and the insights and business analytics groups. And so one sort of meta skill for people to learn is that when you start doing what you think is your level best, and you start finding that the business is not receptive to it, the meta skill is knowing that maybe this is not the right they go through. And some businesses in their maturity and their adoption of data science.
All right. Thank you for that, Peter. We had a bunch of questions come in.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, sorry. You were kind of cutting in.
Was there a network issue with me?
It was a tiny lag at some point. Yeah. It seems okay now.
Okay, good.
Jess, you're good?
That's the internet telling me I'm talking too much.
No, there was a question from Arul earlier about Jupyter Labs. He says he loves using Jupyter Labs and was wondering if there are any new additions coming.
There are. So Jupyter Lab itself is developed by a group now outside of Anaconda, but there's a lot of work on making a new version of Notebook, basically making the Notebook support in Jupyter Lab fully compatible with Classic Notebook, so we can transition users from Classic Notebook to Jupyter Lab. That's not really a new feature. That is, however, an important step in the development of Jupyter Lab. But there's other things they're working on, which is multi-user editing and really getting multi-user collaboration working well. And there's things that we're working on that we'll be revealing later in the year with our sort of cloud-based Jupyter Lab environment. So definitely stay tuned.
Okay, sounds good. By the way, Arul's saying that there might be still some connection issues. Peter, I think a good idea would be for you to leave and come right back. And while you do that, the first giveaway of some Anaconda swag. So while we wait for Peter to return, put #Anaconda for a chance to win an Anaconda baseball cap or a leather journal. You can win one or the other. So we're going to see, the first winner is going to get a baseball cap and the second winner announced will get the leather journal. So I'm going to give folks maybe 30 seconds just to get their #Anaconda in. And while we do that, Jess, do you want to talk about, we talked about upskilling. Do you want to talk about some of the resources that are available from Anaconda that can actually lead to folks going into that upskilling realm?
Yeah, there's a lot actually. So Anaconda Learning is sort of what I'm driving is the learning platform I referenced earlier, learning.anaconda.cloud. You can go to anaconda.cloud and see kind of all of our content. You can see our cloud notebooks there as well. But so we're driving on-demand live on-demand courses and live courses through
Okay.
Anaconda Learning. So a lot of we're trying to attack kind of all the fundamental skills there. It's a work in progress. We just launched in October, so lots more to come there. And we'd love to hear from folks what they want to learn and or what they want to teach. I think is really important. We want to engage this community to share their knowledge. So that's a big part. We folks from Anaconda are frequently presenting at conferences or in doing tutorials and things like that. So you can definitely meet Anacondiacs who are sharing their knowledge at PyCon, for example. There will be a lot of us there. We definitely hope you swing by. And then there's like these tools like PyScript, as Peter already referenced, our cloud notebook service, and lots more to come. So a few things that we're really excited we're developing this year are some certifications and like a Conda certification, and also some skill paths, which would incorporate some data science portfolio best practices and feedback on portfolios and mentorship. So lots more to come this year. There's a lot in the works, and just to help folks like learn what skills they need to build on, and then be able to really hone those skills at sort of starting at a fundamental level.
Okay, thanks. And then, so you mentioned on-demand and live. Can you name just a couple of either on-demand or live sessions that folks can expect to see there?
Yeah, so we're doing a Python for Excel users live course that's coming up on the 25th of April. We're doing a PyScript getting started live event. It's a 2-day event that's coming up on May 2nd and 4th. And then we have our on-demand courses, everything from introduction to data visualization and machine learning to data cleaning with pandas, and kind of an intro to SQL. So definitely check them out. So some of them are available for free, and then others are part of our starter tier package, which includes the full library of courses as well as our sort of higher capacity notebook service.
All right, thank you. All right, Peter, a rule says you're looking good. You're back. We see you, we hear you. This is good.
Okay, good.
Perfect. So you didn't miss anything. We didn't do the giveaway yet. We're gonna go ahead and roll it now. So good luck, everybody. This is for the baseball cap. If you see yourself there as the winner, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn and I'll make sure to coordinate this process. All right, congratulations. Congratulations. We're gonna have one more winner, so keep those hashtag anacondas coming. I always love the little raffle, the confetti that falls down.
That's a cool feature.
Yeah, I love it. So we did have questions here about the platform cost, and I think, Jess, you mentioned that there will be some previews we can do, right? And we have a special code that our dedicated audience here can use for a free 30-day preview of the platform, which we'll share after the show. Anything else you want to say about what sort of model is it for this academy?
Yeah, so our first level, our first tier, starter tier, starts at $9 a month. So we try to keep things accessible. We always want to have some free learning content available. So we'd love for folks to try it out. Again, get in there those 30 days and let us know what you think. And keep an eye on the space because we have a lot more coming shortly.
Okay, $9. That seems like a start half cup of coffee. So that seems very fair to me. All right, Peter, you're back. I've got a question for you.
Back.
So we started off by, you mentioned muggles and we talked about magic. So now take this, pretend this is a magic wand. Here you go.
All right.
If you can use this magic wand and make one change in the data science community or field or career, what sort of change would you want to make?
I think maybe the thing that I would change is what is not about data science itself or about the field, but rather how the field is being managed and professionalized within most mainstream businesses. And so what I would change there is getting businesses to understand that it's not like a silver bullet, right? That data science is actually, to be effective, to effectively deploy data science teams and to effectively harness the capabilities of data scientists and machine learning experts and whatnot, the business itself has to transform. So the magic wand, again, if I could wave the magic wand, it would be to drive that awareness throughout organizations that are trying to adopt these technologies. Because the problem is that in tech, there is generally this orientation, this mentality of, sort of the technical, buying new tech, and there's a tech churn cycle, and you adopt some new tech, and is it cloud this year? Is it Web3 the next year? Is it this and that? Is it streaming? Is it this? Like, what is it? And there's no it, okay? Like when you're actually taking data science and ML and you're applying that, you're trying to use that to transform your business, you have to transform your business. It changes the business. And you may find that certain things you're doing, you don't do them anymore. You find other things, you realize things about them you didn't ask to realize, right? And that's actually the transformative power of it. So I would say, that would be my hope, would be nothing about data science itself or data scientists, but everything about how businesses perceive what it is to adopt data science. And the thing is that to some extent, now you see all this AI stuff coming in, or pseudo AI, or proto AGI, whatever it is, and they're gonna have exactly the same problem, right? That people take a technologist view on things, and it's not a technology issue. It's actually a business transformation issue. So anyway, that's maybe a bit of a abstract take on things. But that's certainly, I feel like, the biggest impediment, and actually that lack of understanding creates the most harm to data scientists, because they get so frustrated in their careers, or they work so hard, and they show up every day, they're away from the families, they do all this hard work, and then it ends up not having impact because the business didn't even understand what it signed up for.
And I guess a lot of times they don't even know what to ask for, right? Or what they can ask for. I remember even things as basic as putting a dashboard together back in my consulting days. They weren't really, the stakeholders weren't even sure what they could ask for. They didn't know you could tie database A and B together and give them that, combo look. And they're like, oh my God, they thought that was magic in itself.
This is the sad thing, is that for a long time as well in business, in most places, we maintain this fiction that non-technical people can be competent at managing technology activities. And that's because we would put technology activities in a box and say, here's this black box of like nerds, and we're going to give them some requirements, and they're going to go nerd out on the nerd things, and they're going to produce some outputs, and we'll take those outputs and we'll plug them into the rest of the business, which is sane and comprehensible to some 55-year-old dude who hasn't actually dictates his emails to a secretary maybe, or something like that, right? And it's like, guys, if you're serious about this transformation, businesses have to transform. The people managing these things have to actually have a clue. Right.
And how do we change the problem with data scientists who, may present insights and information that their leaders don't want to hear. And then they're left feeling they're not valuable, that they're not being heard. And then they're just spinning their wheels, or they're redirecting their analysis to fit what the leaders want to hear, which is sending you down the wrong direction anyway.
Yeah. Again, this is about needing to upgrade the leadership in those companies. And that was the meta skill I said earlier about, if you feel like you're punching a glacier every day for the last 6 months, you probably should change your job, because you're sitting there waiting for some kind of salvation or transformation that's probably not going to come, and it probably is way above your pay grade. And frankly, if you're good at thinking quantitatively, if you're inquisitive, if you're curious, if you're a self-motivated learner, heck, you can get a job anywhere. And furthermore, again, with all of the, we're at the dawn of AI, you can go and explore and do some, massive 10x thing to your career by doing those things, as opposed to sitting there trying to, spamming the Outlook, of your boss, trying to get them to pay attention to what you're doing. And I just, I feel like that's the thing I would encourage people to really, always keep in mind.
Right. And you just mentioned getting a job, Peter. Now, I know we talked about upskilling and some of the on-demand and live courses that are either coming up or already available at the Anaconda learning platform. What about practical hands-on experience, right? How do we address that? So I've got I learned Python, but how do I show my potential employer that I know what I'm doing? Or where do I get this actual hands-on experience if nobody hires me because I don't have experience? Is the whole cycle, right? So how do we do that?
Well, I think that actually, if you're applying into a data science team, then you have people, your interview panel will have people who are clueful, right, about code and about data and things like that. So in that case, I think actually showing some sample projects is a really great way to do it. And you can find data that's maybe in the particular domain that you're interested in, or find some analysis. And I think the thing to show there is, maybe you show a little bit of like, I know this technique, or I can do that kind of analysis, but then you show your skill at communication for that stuff, right? Or you show your ability to go deep into some particular part of the problem. Whatever it is, I mean, everyone's got different strengths. So it's, but I would say going that way to build like a portfolio of projects, and maybe you don't know which domain you're going to apply into, but if you do like 2 or 3 projects, and one is, has some image processing component to it. Another one has more of a recommender system aspect to it. Another one has some streaming data and like some text NLP stuff, right? You can sort of like do 4 or 5 like projects and span a pretty good subspace of techniques and technologies, and possibly domain adjacent kinds of data. And I think that would be fantastic, right? Because what I've noticed is that actually when we talk to actual data scientists embedded in big companies and whatnot, because they're so bogged down with day-to-day mundane data requests and build me a dashboard and all this stuff, they actually don't keep their skills up as much as they should, which is, again, one of the reasons we're building this platform, is so people can just kind of always be upskilling, come in quickly, learn some stuff, and then get back to the regularly scheduled jobs, right? But my point in bringing this up is that you might find that if you go and you use some cutting edge new thing, you might actually be ahead on a technology basis, right? You might be ahead on some technique or some capability of what your interviewers know. It could be a novel viz thing. It could be a distributed GPU thing. It could be some whatever, right? But if you just go and get the bleeding edge tech of something or the other and you pull it in, you may find that the team interviewing you was like, oh, wow, can we get that notebook? Like, that's really awesome. And then of course, then you also watch your GitHub stars and the followers on that particular repo. You watch like a hawk to see if anyone that interviewed you followed that, right? Then you follow up with them, keep that engagement going. So anyway, these are all little random tips.
Thank you.
And be able to like, showcase, your projects and your skills. I think like not everyone is necessarily like, they don't always find it easy to kind of like brag, about their accomplishments and showcase their skills. But like that is a muscle to work out, and I think like also like having a folder or your LinkedIn profile or somewhere that you keep like these accomplishments, these projects, these things that you feel like are good showcases, and make sure you like keep it up to date and that you're putting stuff in there frequently. And if you're going a long span where that is not getting updated and you're like, maybe because you're just like happy at your job and you're doing fun things, but I do that personally, is like I up anything I like find out, I'm like, oh, I did that really well. Like I'm going to put it in my LinkedIn profile. And then like whenever I need it, I know where it is. But having another, like a collection of your achievements, that you don't have to make public until you need it, is definitely like an important, a portfolio website. I saw.
Yeah, I see Saurabh just commented
portfolio
that.
website, exactly.
Yeah, right. That's a good one. So follow-up question on this topic. Let's say we have 2 candidates, candidate A and B, and they're the same on paper. They have the same certifications. They went to similar schools. They have very similar experience. And, Peter, you mentioned communications when you were talking about some of those skills. How would these 2 candidates, like, let's say it comes down to who can communicate better, how would they showcase this? A portfolio website can show you maybe the code or the dashboards or whatever they've built, the products. How can they show you their communication skills?
Well, I mean, in the portfolio website, right, the text and the manner by which you present the concepts is a key aspect of communication skills, right? Yeah. Can this person articulate some sequence of concepts or make some argument or walk people through their work in a compelling is important, right? In a compelling and clear way. Yeah. And the odd thing is that it takes quite a bit of work to get things polished in that form. And so you're sort of understanding, does someone even know what the assignment, do they understand the assignment kind of, right? We've definitely, I mean, it's amazing to me, but I've had instances in the past where people literally turn over like a repo, like a zip file, and there's not even a README. And you're like, what is this? And there's other times when people do fantastic work and they walk you through and like, wow, like this is this is ready to ship. This is great, right? So even in something that's not interactive in the context of a portfolio website, you could show a lot. And just for people who are not familiar with it, I think one of the most beautiful and interesting and a little bit out there portfolio websites is Brett Victor's website, Worry Dream. So if you look for Worry Dream, he's got his projects on there from his like Caltech days to his all of his various things about interactive visualizations and interactive documents. And all these are just really beautiful and they're really nice. And not everyone has to build something like that because not all of us can be Brett Victor. But I think it's sort of a touchstone of what something like that could be.
Yeah. And I think like the sort of clarity in text, you can get help from ChatGPT, like go ahead, but that will get you to maybe a clarity level. It won't get you to a compelling level necessarily, like maybe one day, but but being able to build on that, and I think communication, I mean, at Anaconda, we go through like panel processes. So you meet with a lot of different people in a lot of different departments. It's not just like the single team that you're going to work on, but at Anaconda, culture fit is so important to us, and so having those conversations about your work and just sort of chemistry with a team that's incredibly important too. So and that's not just like I have to make myself have chemistry with these people, but you're deciding if you're a fit there and we're deciding if you're a fit with us. So I think like finding the right fit with the right people is key.
Right. And
the single most, I would say, just like in terms of that, if you feel like you're being evaluated for communication, and by the way, you're always being evaluated for communication skills. I would say probably the single biggest tip I can give anyone, I tell my children this, right, is to practice active listening. And most people don't practice active listening. They practice, what they do is they listen to respond. And so they have their concepts. It's like a whole bag of stuff. And they're waiting for the other person to say something they can then go launch their stuff at, right? It's like, well, here's my idea. Oh, here's this. And they sort of jump in and you're sort of like holding your breath, waiting for them to say a thing, which you're like, oh, good. I know the answer to that question. Boom, right? And that's not active listening. That's like, I don't know, hair trigger waiting to spew your stuff at people, right? Active listening is actually making a space in your head and in your heart and kind of in just, in yourself, the whole integrated self. And when you're listening to the other person, trying to model where they're coming from, trying to understand what they're asking, what they're not asking, and even if you can, think about what they should be asking, pull all those things together in your head, and then take all of your stuff you want to spew, put it together in your head, let these kind of percolate a little bit, and then come out with a response. That is the single greatest skill, is active listening.
I think people are afraid of that 2-second pause of, waiting. I think that's why they sort of just have that thing. And then
they just say, let me think about that for a minute. And then come back with something that's awesome and hard hitting. And that's fine. No one noticed that you waited.
Silence is very powerful.
It is, but it scares people. I'm telling you, I once took a communications class, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And I remember they said to pause after, a certain statement. And I paused for what felt like 20 seconds, but it was actually just 2 when I watched the camera back. I'm like, oh, that wasn't awkward at all, but it felt so awkward to me. So I think it's a skill you can practice for sure.
Yeah, it requires a certain level of emotional regulation and a variety of other sorts of things. But I think in general, just active listening. And if someone has trouble just dealing with silence, that's a self skill. That's a meditation that you can do on your own, not in the middle of an interview, right?
Right. Before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to note for that website portfolio, would you suggest also maybe having a short video where you can be on screen and maybe talk a little bit about yourself, your interests, and?
Well, I think that could be helpful, but I don't think it's required. Okay. It's nice because then people get a sense of just who you are, how you communicate and emote and all those things. But I don't think it's a requirement. I do think, and this is just kind of as a practical matter, for many candidates, let's say for whom English is not their first language or whatever, right? Communication skills, fluency in the language, and the strength of your accent or lack of accent, those are material concerns that I think a interview panel would have. So in that case, a video that showcases your fluency with language is helpful. Yeah,
and for now, that's something ChatGPT can't really help us yet.
Yet, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Maybe we never wanted to help us with that too much. We always wanted.
But you know it will. You know it will. We can.
Yeah, that's true. We probably will.
Deep fake and all that. Deep fake yourself and tell yourself what to write and know what to say.
Well, we'll work on that. We have to get ahead of that train. That's not a good thing.
Yes.
Not at all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to empower humanity.
A lot of defend humanity. Yes, we have to defend and empower humanity for sure.
So that's actually the next topic, though. I lost the actual question here, but somebody asked if, ChatGPT, are they taking our jobs? And let's focus on the data science jobs, right? Because we can now, we can ask it to give us some code. We can ask for help with code. Just like we were able to ask.
Oh, was the question, will ChatGPT take people's jobs away?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So the short answer is almost certainly yes. Okay. The longer answer is, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because if you think about how many important things there are to do in this world, it's infinite. There's just so much that we can do in this world, and that we should be able to use computers to do better. Right now, our theory of organization, our theory of capital allocation, our theory of action at scale for humanity is through sort of the technical term is the theory of the firm, right? So we have these big businesses, they employ anywhere from 10 to 10,000 to 100,000 people. We organize people in the hierarchies, we give people jobs, they're salaried. If they don't do a good job, we literally take away their ability to feed their children. And, we have this whole arrangement of human affairs.
Yeah.
And we're used to it because we're many generations into running the world that way. But I think we're actually at a point where we can revisit that entire concept and start from the beginning and say, well, what are the basics? What does everyone need? How to provide for those needs? And what does the world need? What can humanity do to make itself a better denizen of this biosphere and to, manifest its full potential? And if we start from those boundary conditions and then work our way in, then we'll find that having technologies and tools like LLMs is amazing. It's massively transformative. It can actually help people build bridges across cultures, across political divides. It can help people do meditation and self-reflection in a much better way. All of these things are things that we could do as we advance this technology. But if we just sit there and say, well, it might take someone's job away, it's like, well, maybe a lot of those jobs are bullshit anyway, right? Which we all know, 90% of jobs are bullshit, right? We could take away the bullshit jobs and actually empower everyone to go do the important entrepreneurial things that they want to do in their world. Whether it's some creative artistic thing, whether it's some deep part of science or history they care about, whatever it might be, I think it's incredibly liberating. So that's the frame I come at it from.
And it really drives like the necessity for upskilling, like if you're doing work that is administrative, is possible to automate, is repetitive, is based on memorization. Yeah, now's the time to lean in and drive skills and where you can be really passionate, because those and I think that's what makes working in data science, some of those types of tasks can be automated and maybe help you move like deeper into your career and do more fulfilling and more sophisticated work. So I mean, I'm like endlessly optimistic about everything, but I do. Of course, like some things are going to change. We're at a major inflection point right now.
Yeah.
This is a lot of people are talking about this as being as transformational, at least as transformational as the printing press, and some arguing it's as transformational as the invention of language. So it's a weird thing to be alive in this time, all of us. And the ones who are pretending it's not going to be transformational are the ones that are going to be most surprised. But Bill Gates talks about it this way. I talk about it this way. There's all sorts of people talk about it this way. And it's not all doom and gloom. And I agree with you, Jess. We should approach life with optimism and with courage, because anytime you have a chance of things going sideways or going up, there's also a chance of things going sideways. So so that's just kind of what comes with the territory. But I think in this case, we are really at the cusp of something incredible.
Absolutely. So we have time for just one final question here before we wrap. But a quick reminder to the audience, #Anaconda. After this final question, we're going to do the last raffle. That's for the leather journal. Yay. But Peter, I've been taking notes. So hashtag, you're always being evaluated for communication skills. You're even if you're not using, if you don't think you're using Anaconda, you are using Anaconda, and 99%
Right.
of jobs are BS jobs. I love this.
Not 99, 90. I said 90%.
90. I'm sorry. I'll correct this. 90.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That number, I mean, it might fluctuate.
It's a
So-
general application of Sturgeon's law, which is that 90% of everything is bullshit. So that's
Okay. Okay. I was thinking 80-20 for Pareto, but I guess we'll go with 90.
Oh, if we get to Pareto, that'd be great. Most businesses will be flying if they get to Pareto.
All right.
Yeah.
So my final question is, what new thing can we expect to see with Anaconda? And I'm going to couple this with a question that came in from the audience from our rule. He's asking if there's a plan to incorporate ChatGPT with Anaconda in the future.
Yes, absolutely. So it's not just ChatGPT from OpenAI in particular, but we are working on some LLM-based things ourselves, and we're not quite ready to talk about them. But in very short order, we'll have some stuff out for that.
Make sure you're following Anaconda if you want to know. All right.
Yeah, and if any of you are going to PyCon, come by our booth. We'll have some cool demos there.
Yeah.
And that's in just 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, in Salt Lake City.
Next week.
It's next week in Salt Lake City. Yes, that's right.
April is just flying by.
Time flies by. Yeah, it's April.
It is. All right, let's go ahead and get our final winner in here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the raffle. And as I mentioned previously, if you see yourself as the winner here, just shoot me a note on LinkedIn and I will make the connection. All right, Andrew, congratulations on your winnings. Now, before we fully wrap, Peter and Jess, where can folks go to sort of learn more? I know we're gonna share a link for the learning platform, but anything else you want to tell them? Where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely engage with us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and find us at PyCon, and Anaconda.cloud again is our sort of community knowledge area for learning, for notebooks and more. So kind of everything we're doing, we definitely surface there so that folks can know what's happening next.
All right, Peter, anything to add?
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay, awesome. I love it. And we have a 30-day trial promo code. It's DataCon, right, Jess? DataCon. So I'll put it in a banner here so folks can actually just see it. There we go. DataCon. So if you go on to the link that I'm going to put in the chat, the promo code is DataCon for your 30-day free trial. All right, Peter and Jess, thank you so much for being here on the Dedicated Show. It's been a pleasure. I love learning about your new learning platform, all the stuff that you've got on there, all the resources, all your thoughts on upskilling, education, and the potential fears of ChatGPT. They're not taking our jobs; they're just replacing and transforming. And
it's just transforming society. You remember, the printing press led to 300 years of religious wars in Europe. So, hopefully, we'll compress that down with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll see everybody online.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you,
really
Kate, for having us.
appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for attending. See ya.